Welcome to In the Woods with myself, Carl Marsh, and today's guest is...
I'm Damon Gough, otherwise known as Badly Drawn Boy.
Hi Damon, how are you going?
I'm alright, thanks, Carl. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all, not too bad. Can I just talk about the new album, is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure. Emotions seem to have played a big part of your new album, Banana Skin Shoes, would you agree?
Emotion?
Yeah.
Yeah, my music in general is always coming from a place of trying to make sense of the world, relationships, people, and with this album, probably more so than ever, more so than anything else I've ever attempted to achieve. It's like there's two stories going on in the album, I suppose. One is my personal struggle to get back to where I've got to, in a place to release music again, because the last several years I've been compromised by so many different things that have not allowed me to do that. And one of them being a breakup with my ex-partner of like 15 years. She was Claire, the mother of my two older children, and then I'm 19 and 18, so we split up in 2012 roughly, and that was partly to do with like me drinking, but there's a whole backstory to it. Like it was like 12 years of non-stop doing music, 8 albums in 12 years, and touring the world and drinking my way through that, becoming a habitual drinker. And so when we broke up, it took me a while, but I had to sort of do something about my life, and so that took 3 years to get to the point of giving up the booze, which led me on another new path of like, well, I wanted to articulate things I've learned. I've been piecing me back together, it feels like, over the last several years, in order to be useful again to the world and those that I care about. And then simultaneously, the world's been sort of, the world's falling apart in lots of ways, and it's quite a broken place, the world. And so it's almost like I'm trying to take what I've learned about what it's took for me to rebuild me, and apply that to the world as well. Like a lot of the songs just offer guidance of just basic moral and spiritual standards, which I'm using that phrase because I saw an interview the other day with a guy called Dr. What's he called? I should have written his name down. He was talking about the stuff that's going on in America with the racial tension after the George Floyd incident, which was shocking. And Dr. Cornel West, I think his name was, a bit like a modern day Martin Luther King, inspiring guy. And so he was talking about the basics of moral, spiritual standards that have been just decimated, really. These are my words now, like across the last several years. You could call it decades, really, but particularly focused in the last 5 to 7 years. The same time and period that I was away thinking about what to do about a new album, the world's just becoming a harsher place, a place where kindness and empathy don't prevail as much as you'd like them to. The world's full of great, kind people, but the people that are at the top of the ladder, the people in charge, the people that we all look to lead us through tough times. And I know they're trying their best at the minute, but I'm talking about before coronavirus. The world was just, I hate to say the dirty word Brexit, but that wasted 3 years of precious time where we could have been all collectively focusing on more positive things, like what to do about climate change, what to do about people who are living on the breadline, living in the shadows, struggling in life. Lots of important things, making sure people get paid well for doing the important jobs they do in things like the national health, which is now getting highlighted because of coronavirus, but was left behind beforehand. It's like, a lot of moral judgments slipping. So this is what I felt was important for me to address in some ways on this album. And to do that, I've written really simple songs, I think, that are maybe may take more than a few listens to realise that there's just simple, broad messages in there to hopefully just nudge people and give people the courage and confidence that they might need. Because sometimes you feel like you're doing good in the world and it's not getting you anywhere. It's not being not rewarded isn't the right word, but not being even acknowledged or feeling like it's actually helping. And so I don't want people to be discouraged that what the good that you try and do isn't overlooked. We all need to keep acknowledge more that small things count, and we need to endeavour to help people more. So yeah, there's a lot of emotion in the album, and because of all those things, I suppose, is the long-winded answer.
And I was about to say, you must be hopeful that the music on the new album can help people through any bad experiences that they've sort of had, or are currently going through.
Well, I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, the songs, I think weirdly on this album, I've written kind of my most commercial set of poppy tunes in a way, and it wasn't an intention or designed in such a way. It was just I wanted the songs to be upbeat and perhaps poppier, more direct, so that they might have a more universal appeal and touch more people, because the messages in the songs are, some of them are quite important. Like, I'm not sure what it is. I'm just looking at the list of songs here just to jog my memory. But Banana Skin Shoes, the title track, is kind of an opening statement of me admitting that, yeah, I've been through some tough times, but a lot of that perhaps was my own fault. I was the architect of my own failings in some ways. I think to blame other people all the time, that's the world we live in as well. Politicians blaming it's your fault, not taking ownership of their own problems and issues and being more helpful. So Banana Skin Shoes is like, it's me saying I'm looking at myself. How can I make me better? How can I move on? It's like start again with life, shake off the plaster cast that's been shackling me, and move on in life and acknowledge my mistakes and almost laugh at them, really, in a cartoon way. So Banana Skin Shoes became the phrase that I wanted to encompass these other songs, because it's me saying, yeah, I've slipped up, but I'm bouncing back, and I'm stronger for the mistakes and the troubles that I've attracted to myself. And I'm not sure what it is. Is this a dream follows that, and that's more of a political statement about the world being. So I open up with my problems, the world's problems, and then I'm not sure what it is a song about mental health issues. So there's like songs that are goodwill to other people, to my wife, to spiritual songs, I suppose. Yeah, it's hard for me to say really what Note to Self, I suppose, is right is probably one of the unsung heroes of the album, in my opinion, because it's like one of the quieter songs on the album, and that's just really basic messages. It's a simple life if we surround ourselves with things we like, is one of the lines in that song. And always be good to the people you meet, because we have no clue what they're going through. Just simple, really basic, simple messages that kind of they sound like childlike, I suppose, some of these lyrics, but they're not easy words to write and fit into songs in some ways. But I was happy to do that, just to get some simple messages through.
With Note to Self, I mean, I've listened to the album on repeat play for the last 7 days, and there's some tracks on there so uplifting. I've been playing it full blast when I'm driving around. But Note to Self, for me, it's like you're typing on a typewriter when it starts off.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I always, when I came up with the idea for the song, I always envisaged the typewriter thing, just to have a moment in the middle of the album to remind myself that this is, whilst I'm trying to project these messages to other people, it's kind of a reminder halfway through the album that, and the title Note to Self is like, all of these things are advice to me. I'm not a preacher. I don't want to be a preacher about these things. I needed to have a song that clearly stated that I'm telling myself these things all the time. It was when I read Bob Dylan's Chronicles a few years ago, well, at the start of the noughties, I think it was, Chronicles came out, and the line that stuck with me was where Bob Dylan asks he's asked by someone, "What's the best advice you were ever given?" And he quotes his grandmother. His grandmother said, "Always be good to anyone you meet because you don't know what they're going through." So that line stuck with me ever since, and I found a way of putting it in a song with note to self. So that things like that are, as a songwriter, kind of a small miracle when it happens, where you get a line that suits the tone, and it's a line you feel like it's. There's another line in "I Need Someone to Trust," which is I kind of stole from Ivor Cutler, who's one of my musical heroes, who I never get to talk about. Ivor Cutler was. Do you remember Ivor Cutler?
I've heard the name. Yeah, I have.
Yeah, he's a Scottish legend. He was in the Magical Mystery Tour with the Beatles. He played Buster Bloodvessel was his character.
Right.
But he did poetry, and one of his lines was, "Where the river bends, the blind men fall in," which is a bit of a joke on a blind man not being able to navigate the curve of a meandering river. But I stole that line, and where the river bends, you know that you're bound to fall in. And if that should happen, take a grip of my hand. So that I turned it into a more spiritual message of if there's a point in life where you're struggling, I'm here for you. So it's like there's quite a few references to things like that, helping someone on their journey, whether it's with mental health issues or like "Never Change" is a song about that. So yeah, they're all songs that are offering a crutch of some sort, which I think, and as an overall, the identity of the album overall, I wanted it to be like. So a Spanish journalist I was talking to the other day said that the album was like a soothing balm, like a lip balm, I suppose they meant, like a soothing balm for the times we're living in. I thought that was a very nice thing to say about it, and I'm kind of hoping it's like, if the world at the minute is a giant jigsaw that needs putting back together, that my biggest hope for this album is that it's one of the pieces that fixes that jigsaw. It's one of the pieces that goes back in, and it may be only one small piece of a million or a few a thousand, but at least it's something. Because I think the album, it may be a slow burner. It may take time to reach people and for them to understand what the messages are. But I'm already getting so many really encouraging responses, and people that it's made them think about their own problems, and that there is someone else you can talk to. There's, whatever you can do to spread those good messages. And I think, I'm not on my own. Everybody needs to contribute a piece to that jigsaw, a piece. All the interviews I do, there's always somebody like yourself at the other end of the line that's understanding of these things. So the goodness is spreading just by talking about it. And you're a piece of the jigsaw too. We all are. And so that's music communicates things in a way that other things don't do quite so well. It's a universal communicator in of itself. Music can lift you up even if you don't know what the song's about. You put Stevie Wonder on and you feel better because it's uplifting music. So if you can cram a little message in as well as the music just sounding good, it's a Brucey bonus if you can get some good messages in there too.
And it must be cathartic to you, when you listen back to the album as well.
Well, I don't feel I need to listen to it much at the minute, because my memory of making the songs is enough. I kind of hear snippets of the songs because it's been getting some play on the radio, various radio stations, which I'm really grateful for. And so occasionally the radio will be on and I'll hear a song, and it's sometimes, I don't know, it's always a bit of a weird experience, but I've felt really good about the music being played and heard. I haven't sat and listened through. I listened through it last week before it was released 2 weeks ago. I had a listening competition winners on my website and social platforms. 10 of them listened through the album with me, so I did that, and that was a strange experience, but it was good because there's been a lot of good stuff with throughout this lockdown period, because we've been forced to do interviews like this, and I've weirdly felt more connected than ever to lots of different people because of I've probably done more of this than I normally do, especially with the fans as well. Like we do live streams on a regular basis, just playing like an hour, chatting and playing songs and answering people's questions. So yeah, it's been a really interesting time.
And with the album, then obviously you've mentioned it's about a lot of things have gone past your past personal issues. Would you say there's a lot of what you want for your future in there as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm probably keen to point out that everything on this album is really about now, and it's like drawing a line in the past for me personally, because I feel like I'm living a second life since giving up the booze in 2015, which was a big turning point for me personally. It set me on a new. I felt so invigorated for the first 12 months of giving up alcohol, and not like an epiphany or anything. It was just an achievement, a sense of achievement. I watch programs now. I watched the one Tony Slattery one that's been on TV recently, and it's heartbreaking to watch somebody in that mindset of having something like alcohol or any other drug having a grip on them. Because I've been through that. I didn't think my personal version of these events was as serious as other people's, but it was in its own way. I was on the phone to this rehab centre and saying it wasn't for me. I didn't need to come in, and the guy was saying, "Oh well, we had Amy Winehouse. She was meant to come in, and she didn't. And look what happened to poor Amy." And I said, "Well, I'm not in as bad a state as that. I'm not that level of problem." And I don't know. Maybe I was kidding myself, but I was drinking every day for a long time, and I did okay with it because I could function and do my work, and for the most part I could. But anyway, it's a progressive thing that got worse. So when I knocked that on the head, I felt like a new beginning, obviously. But that was at the end of 2015, November. So it's nearly 5 years ago. So it was like it's a really inspiring thing to do, and then with mental health issues as well, which I realised that I'd had on and off for most of my life, but I didn't acknowledge it because I wasn't aware of what it was until the breakup, and until I started to think about giving up the booze. And the mental health issues were all wrapped up in there too. So some of the messages on the album are relating to some of that experience and what I've gained from moving on. Giving up the booze was just the beginning, because it's the clarity that I've got since giving up has allowed me to achieve other stuff that I never could have contemplated. I couldn't have tackled my mental health issues without stopping. And if I could be an inspiration to someone else that's struggling, because it's doable. It's all very doable if you get the right help, the right conversations, the right belief, that the belief in yourself that there's something better for you. That there's a different path you can take. It just takes a few steps, and once you've made them, other ones open. Your world starts opening up, as opposed to just being one thing, like a tunnel that never ends of the same stuff every day.
Yeah,
that's what it was like, boozing all the time. It was just, there's moments of happiness there. The booze tricks you into thinking you're okay, and you find while you're on a high, but the endless hangovers and topping up, it just becomes tiresome. I got sick of it in the end. So to make a change, you're not losing anything. The common misconception for people giving up anything is that they're losing a part of their life that's really important, like something they've relied on. If you can get your head around saying to yourself, no, I'm actually gaining loads of stuff. I'm gaining stuff I didn't even know was there because you blinkered to it. So you have to keep messaging yourself that, and those small steps you take open up a world that you didn't know existed, and in terms of the possibilities, just enjoying a moment in the day that you just would pass you by in the past. So it's like I can't remember what you asked me before I went off into that.
It was about the future, you know, about the album, you know, about it's not just being about the past, but obviously it's about what you wanted for your future, and that's when you
Yeah,
went.
yeah. I suppose that's so that's why the album is mostly about what the future holds, I suppose, because
Mm.
I feel like I'm in part two of my life with a new beginning. It feels like a debut album for me. It feels like what can I do now to make the next 10, 20 years amazing for me and my kids and everybody else that I care about. But what can any of us do? So it's all about forward thinking.
Yeah.
Much more than, I mean, there's inevitable references to the past in this album, just to kind of by way of explaining my absence more than anything, why I've been away for several years, and so I've kind of referenced some of the things that contributed to that absence. I Just Want to Wish You Happiness is the breakup song, just to acknowledge that that's how I feel about Claire. Even though she was ending the relationship, it was tough for her, and all I wish for her now in the real world, in real time, is happiness, because she's a brilliant mum to my two kids, you know.
And with the album, then, would you say it felt like you were doing the How the Wildebeest again? You know, was it something like the hunger was there again from the beginning of doing this album?
I don't. In some ways, I think I felt like a kind of a liberation that I perhaps haven't felt for a long time, because I've been away several years. Like I said, I felt like, well, I can do anything I want really with this album. All I need it to be is a strong set of songs, just to reintroduce myself, say hello with a bunch of songs that prove I can still do this, prove it to myself I can still do it. I mean, I never doubted myself, because I've continued to write hundreds of songs in the last several years. So it's finishing them off that's tough. I mean, I've got thousands of songs that I've started and never finished. I get a few lines and a chorus and then shelve it. That's a song I can finish when I want to, and then there's some over here. To finish songs with some purpose is the difficult task most of the time. So I just wanted to finish some songs off, present them as a body of work that attempts to say something good, and then and that there was a point where I thought, you always have self-doubt in the finishing of a record, like trying to get it completed and make the songs sound as good as you can make them, speak for themselves. And so I just kept saying to myself, how did I do this in the first place? What was so good about my first album? All I could say to myself was that I actually didn't have a clue what I was doing when I did that first album. All I could do was trust my instincts, listen to the songs, be honest with the lyric content. So I just applied a few basic, simple rules, reminding myself that I was fairly clueless, and I still am. And I have to trust that if some of this stuff moves me and makes me feel something, then it might move someone else. I have to admit, it was more difficult. One of the most difficult albums I've ever made. This because of a number of the accumulation of pressure of being away. People are going to expect something spectacular, because it's, what's he been doing all this time? You know, 7 years. He must be planning something big. So I thought, oh God, what are people going to expect? And then I thought, it's the first album I've made since I've been with my wife now, since the breakup. We've been together for 8 years. First album she's been party to me to see him being made. It's first, my older two kids are now teenage, late, 19 and 18. It's the first album they will remember. There was so many new things that this was representing for me to potentially worry about. So I just had to stick to it, keep my head down, and hope for the best. Really.
It sounds like you've quite, you're still self-critical of yourself, or would you say you're not? I don't know. It just, when I'm speaking to you now, it feels like you come across as still quite self-critical.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if if there is an artist that isn't. I mean, we're all different. I think you can't say every artist is made of the same basic elements. I mean, artists like me tend to be sensitive, worry about what people think of them. I think I'm much less sensitive than I used to be. I used to get really annoyed if people didn't like my music or said that it wasn't for them, or that what's not to like? It's just good music. It's just good songs, and it used to really thoroughly annoy me and get me down. Now I'm like, well, I've grown up a bit, and I understand that people at different times might not tune into what it is I'm trying to do, and then a few years later they might think, oh God, I really like, because I do that with music. I have certain songs that are artists that I perhaps didn't get at a period in my life, and then I suddenly think, wow, I really love that now.
Yeah.
And that's really rewarding. So you have to accept that you can't please everyone all the time. It's impossible. And I think with this album, I became aware that I wasn't even sure I could make an album that I really loved as much as I did in the past, because not drinking has changed my relationship with my music. I have to be more pragmatic about it and just go, this is my job, this is what I'm doing, and separate myself from the music more than I used to. The music used to encompass me to a point where I wasn't really living, and it contributed to the breakup as well, because the music was all important. I was married to the job. You know, you watch documentaries about artists like Leonard Cohen, a difficult guy to live with because he was completely married to his art form, and didn't treat the people around him very well, typically. And I watched that documentary, really related to, you're in danger half the time as an artist of trying to articulate. I wrote about it in the song You Were Right, tackled this head on. It was like, I felt like, here I am, this caring guy writing songs about real life and stuff, but I'm actually missing my real life. I'm not even present because I'm too busy doing this. So I kind of tackled that issue head on, because I don't want to be. So what I think where I've got to now, hopefully, is a better balance where my music is just something I'm capable of doing without having to give everything of me to do it. Yeah. I'm still in the world for my kids and my wife, as much as I am. I'm hopefully good enough to do this with less effort, with less. It doesn't have to swamp me and define me even. Yeah. I'm just a guy that writes songs. But I've also got other things that I do that define me as well.
Right. You know? I've got to ask you one last question, because obviously, your time is precious. With the track Tony Wilson Said on the album, what are your funniest memories of Tony?
Oh, I mean, thanks for asking about Tony. I mean, he's like
Mr. Manchester.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the unofficial Lord Mayor of Manchester, particularly its cultural aspects. The Lord Mayor of Culture, the cultural minister for the town, for the city, I suppose. He was. I suppose it's something that he didn't want for himself. He just became this important guy over time, over years, and he's totally irreplaceable. I mean, he set a scene in Manchester. Him and others like him. Tony became the figurehead because of his character, and there was others. It's not to say he did it single-handedly, but it's easy to look back and feel like he did, because he was just the guy, Tony Wilson, the news anchor man that became record industry mogul with maverick bands, Joy Division through New Order and Happy Mondays and others. And so it was just like, he was so intrinsic to a Manchester scene that by the time it was the 90s and people like myself and the Dubs and Elbow were the next generation of artists and bands, Tony was there as a bit of a mentor. I mean, he called me up when we started Twisted Nerve Records in 97. He phoned up, he contacted me in Andy Hotel and summons us to his office for a meeting, and we were like, wow, what's this about? And we went along near the boardwalk just off Whitworth Street where his office was, and we sat there waiting for Tony, sitting on our chairs like this, swiddling around waiting for him. And he was a few minutes late, and he came in and he bounded in and he was doing this, like, go on guys, like, punch in the air. He was just saying, he was just giving us the thumbs up, championing us for what we'd achieved, because we were making some headway, so we were making some noise in the city again, and people were chatting about Twisted Nerve and Badly Drawn Boy, and he just wanted to. He didn't want a piece of it or anything. He was just saying, if I've made mistakes, I've seen all the pitfalls. If there's anything I could help you with, I'm here because I want you guys to do well. And he drew this chart on the board, on the chalkboards, sort of going back to stuff that influenced him and other Manchester bands, the Sex Pistols gig and all that, and Motown and American music. Then you had the Manchester scene and the 80s, and there's Twisted Nerve now. You're in this lineage. He was placing us in this lineage, and it was a really nice thing for him to do. It was just hilarious that he was just punching the air, and we came away bemused, like, what was all that about? But it was just being kind, being nice, just saying, go for it, guys, and I'm here if you need me, and whether we did or not. Over the years, I bumped into him several times. I did a few in the city songwriting. He interviewed me about writing songs, and he was just always so. I played once around the block at this songwriting masterclass thing, and Tony was asking me questions about how you write a song, and I said, well, I don't really know, but I'll play you this song, and he listened to the song, and he said, you know what? He said, play that again. He said, that's just, I want to hear it again. It's just the best thing ever. And he was just always enthusiastic, even though I wasn't an immediate member of his family, as it were, like the people he was mentoring and helping, or like the Happy Mondays and other bands. He treated me like I was part of his thing. He was looking after me when he could, whenever he was with me and stuff. And there was a time I was stood outside a nightclub in London, and I'm having trouble getting in. The bouncer didn't like the look of me or something, which is fair enough, but probably understandable. But Tony comes walking out of the nightclub and sees me struggling to get in, and he kicks up a fuss saying, do you know this is one of our best songwriters, Badly Drawn Boy, Damon. Walk him in. He insisted, and he walked me into the nightclub, made sure I got in, sat down, bought me a drink, chatted for another hour, even though he was obviously on his way somewhere else. He took the time to sit and chat, catch up, things like that. And then the last time I saw him, that I remember seeing him, was on Whitworth Street, down from the Hacienda. I was driving, parked up, got out of my car, and Tony was across the street, and he crossed the street to say hello. Kate made a beeline for me, gave me a big hug. He was with Anton Corbin. He said, this is Anton, Damon, this is Anton, and introduced us. So he was obviously in the middle of that film, Control, I think, that they worked on together. Yeah. So that's the last time I recall seeing him. He was just always like boundless energy and enthusiasm to help other people. He was facilitated other people's dreams a lot of the time. And so in the song, that's why I'd mention him as he symbolised and crystallised freedom, a king with no crown, because he wasn't just a symbol of freedom. He made it happen. He crystallised it. It wasn't just an ideal. So he symbolised and crystallised freedom, a king with no crown. He left more than 1 million footprints, because the amount of work he put in to helping others, 1 million footprints that he left on this town is my way of just tributing the work he did. And so it's like, I was nervous about writing that song because of what people might think. Like, who am I to say these things about Tony? Because I wasn't like as close to him as other people. But maybe in some ways I'm ideally placed, because I did cross his path enough times to kind of know him, and but not enough times that I can still hold him on a pedestal as a hero. If I was closer to him, it'd be more like writing about your dad, and that'd be tougher to do. And ironically, I ended up, just before the album was released 2 weeks ago, finally got round to playing the song, sending it to his son, Oliver Wilson, who I've known for a long time, but don't see much of him. So I was hoping he was going to give it his blessing before. I wanted him to hear it before the album was actually released. So I sent it to him, and he was delighted with it. So that was a big relief as well.
Well, thank you for your time. I'll put a few links to the album in the comments section. And thank you, Damon. Really appreciate that.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Carl. Really appreciate it too.
Right. All right, mate. Nice one. Have a good day, yeah? And I really appreciate it, yeah? All the best for the album. Fantastic.
Thank you, mate. Thanks, Carl.